What's up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire episode. And today I have Brandon Smotherman with me today. Brandon, say what's up to the audience.
What's up, everybody?
All right. I know he's going to spit some fire today, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he has used in his life to get to the point and where he's at and the success that he's achieved. But before I jump into that, I just want to encourage everybody once again to please like, comment, subscribe below. So that way you're made aware every time we drop a new interview, as well as the other content that we put on our channel. So once again, Brandon, welcome to the Spitting Fire podcast. Appreciate you being so generous with your time and being on with us today.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's an honor. I appreciate it, Rob. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so let's start here. Give us a bio. Tell us where you're from, if you got a family, maybe a little bit of your past, and then all the way up to what you're doing now.
Oh, man. I don't know if we have enough time. Let's see.
If you give me the Sports Center version, that'd be great.
That's right. So I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
My wife and I, we grew up there. That's where most of our family is from. She's definitely my better half. I married my pastor's daughter. So,
awesome. Yeah.
I felt like I needed lots of extra help from the Lord, and so if I could just do that, that was going to give me a heads up, a leg up.
Yeah.
So, and then we got married almost 16 years ago this July, in just a few weeks, actually. And we got married, we moved down to Florida, and that's where insurance came in. So I have an undergrad in theology, went to a small school in Lakeland, Florida called Southeastern University.
Yeah, very familiar with it.
And started working at a church in an associate role as a student pastor. And actually, I fast forward a few years from there, we helped plant a new church in downtown Orlando, which I guess you have a background in church planting. I just found that out. So pretty cool. And as you know, when you start a new church or plant a church, there's no salaries to be had.
Right.
And my first year of trying to bring home some money was a middle school math teacher. I did not love that, but I finished out the whole year.
Right.
And they offered me to come back the next year, and I politely declined.
Right.
And then that's where insurance came in. I was referred to a guy that I actually interned under me back in student ministry, and someone said he was in Lakeland at a small call center selling insurance, making like, I don't know, I think the guy told me like $40,000 a year, and I was like, wow, that's rich.
Right.
I'm all about it. And so that's where that got started about 10 years ago. So we started that church there in Orlando, and it took off really well, and we started having kids. We eventually moved back home to St. Louis, stayed in St. Louis again for about 6 years. Then recently, as of last fall, we moved to Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
Actually kind of come full circle. The guy that I graduated Southeastern from, he pastors a church here. And so it's kind of a reconnection of a bunch of people that we've done ministry with for a long time. And still doing insurance. We opened up a small little telesales office recently. And so that's where we're at, my friend.
Yeah. Well,
is that concise enough? That was pretty fun.
Yeah, man. No, that's some good stuff there. So I always like talking to people that are people of faith. I'm very passionate about it. It's thread that's interwoven to everything that I do. I like to say it this way. I believe we were made on purpose for a purpose, right? And so I believe in living on purpose. But let me ask you this. How has your faith played a role in the success that you have today? Because now you co-own, I know you have a big Facebook group, but you kind of co-own a company with another gentleman. So how has your faith played a part in that? Or what is one thing you could tell us that, hey, because of my faith, it helped me get through this, or it gave me the tenacity, or whatever the case it may be, to get to where you're at today?
Oh, man. Previously to starting in insurance, obviously I didn't have an insurance background or sales background. There was no such thing as 8% conference back then. Nobody was doing a lot of this stuff. I never read Zig Ziglar or
Right.
anything like that, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So faith was a big faith was a big deal, and at that same time, around that time, so my daughter, our oldest daughter, Nori Grace, is 11. So we had a new baby basically, and my wife decided to stay home. So it was immediately that we were a one income family when I first started, and so I don't know what I would have done without faith. I mean, I knew like I couldn't come home and not sell
Right.
policies, or I mean, the alternative was, I guess, homelessness. I mean, there was no alternative. So
Sure.
so just trusting that if I just show up, God is going to take care of the rest.
Yeah.
You know, it is. Sales is a funny thing, and I don't think the hardest part of sales, I really believe now, is just the mindset.
Sure.
And so I remember in the early days having lots of bad days. I mean, I was really successful my first year, but still lots of bad days,
Sure.
and thinking like, wow, I just want to throw in the towel.
Sure.
And but by the time it started getting dark in the day, you know, going back to God, I'm trusting you to make this happen. And ultimately it did, you know, maybe not that day,
Sure.
but I never had a bad month, you know. And so now I can look back at those early days and think, wow, you know, really what a testimony, because I literally did not have any idea what I was doing. You know,
Right.
I just was, you know, I got a presentation and I went out there and tried to figure it out. And
Sure.
so really just a powerful testimony, I think, of God's faithfulness of, listen, if you just show up and trust me, and try to do right by people and help people, a lot of other things tend to take care of themselves. And so
Sure.
um, that's kind of been the story all the way around. You
Yeah.
know, it's been a, I was gonna say, a fun journey, but I don't know. It's fun at times. It's been a ride, that's
Sure.
for sure. You know, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think I think my faith has grown a lot in this journey because nothing is promised to you, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I definitely I don't know how some people could do it without their faith in the Lord and having, you know, God to trust, you know, because other than that, I would be on some pretty high level, um, you know, anxiety pills, I
Sure.
think, at this stage of the game.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I've heard it said this way, that you pray as hard as you can as it's totally up to God, but then you work as hard as you can as it's totally up to you. And somehow there's
Yeah,
mystery how it meshes together. And I know you have a degree in theology. I have a seminary degree from Liberty University, and it's amazing to me. And I just want to stay here for a minute. It's amazing to me how many Christian people that I run into in sales that somehow believe they're immune to suffering or bad days or whatever the case may be. And a lot of it's this bad prosperity theology that's out there, if we're to be brutally honest about it. And it's not that I don't believe that God wants to prosper us. I pray and affirm, and I declare things every day. But I like what you said. You still have to show up. Somebody's got to show up to do something, right?
hmm
That God rewards
yeah,
that action. He's going to always be faithful. But I always believe in, and I'd like to touch on this and hear your thoughts on this. I have seen in 20 something years of doing ministry that God has done his best work in me in my hardest times.
hmm
And would like to just hear your thoughts on that. Do you feel like God has just grown you a lot, even in those tough seasons that you were having?
yeah. Of course. I mean, I think the scriptures are just laced with that being the story, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's easy to forget about the goodness of God
Yeah.
and lean on how amazing the gospel is
Right.
when we're on the mountain peak,
Mhm.
you know.
That's right.
um, and we're all human beings, you know. And so even in this and sharing this or doing this with you, my biggest hesitation, or just what I wanted to share as a reminder, is like I'm always preaching to myself. I know I always have so much cleaning up to do, and thankful for the grace of God.
Yeah, man.
And so just when I think I'm good on the mountain, sometimes I forget real fast, and it's like rinse and repeat.
There you
John
go.
Piper talks about a lot. He's probably um, kind of, I don't know if idol is the right word, but just like a huge mentor through books and resources.
Yeah.
And he just talks a lot about how much we can grow in the seasons of pain and doubt and questioning and suffering, because then we really do have to rely on God,
Mm,
and not to neglect those seasons, but really grab a hold of those
mm,
and learn what you need to learn, and
yeah,
grow in the areas that you need to grow. And so, I mean, I'm only 39, so Lord willing, I think I'll be here a lot longer,
sure.
according to the actuaries, right? Who knows?
That's
But with that being said, I'm hoping I continue to grow and learn in that area, and really, I'm still not going to pray for suffering. I'm not at that point yet,
sure.
but I'm not that holy yet. But trust the Lord in those moments, and this industry in particular
Yeah,
um, provides a lot of space for that.
sure.
I think.
Well, and you know this. I mean, I teach our agents here. I run an agency here with Justin Brock here in the Medicare Gurus, and
Uh,
and I tell our agents here, one bad day doesn't equal one bad week, doesn't equal a bad week.
mhm,
A bad week doesn't equal a bad month. A bad month doesn't equal a bad year. That whether you're Christian or non-Christian, the reality is
mhm,
you're just going to have some days where you get beat up a little bit. But right, those
yeah.
agents who are really successful learn how to grow from that and use it as a platform instead of a prison. A lot of times
Mhm,
rejection and failure agents tend to use it as a prison, and they get imprisoned by it instead of a platform, and what John Maxwell calls failing forward. I believe by
oh
the
yeah.
grace of God we can fail forward not only in our spiritual life but also in the insurance agency as well. So with that said, I know there's a lot of people that be watching this, but tell me a little bit about your success today. And the only reason I do that is because there are going to be some people going, why should I listen to this Brandon guy? So fast forward to where you're at today, and tell me a little bit about your success, maybe what kind of premium you're writing, what space you're in, things like that.
Yeah. So, my first year in the field, I lose track. It was like 9 or 10 years ago. I was the number one field agent
Hmm.
for that organization, and final expense. That's primarily the space that I'm in, have
Okay.
been in this whole time. Um, so I did that for a few years. Did the independent broker side for a few years. Averaged anywhere between 300,000 to 400,000 dollars plus
Wow.
every year for the most part, and final expense only premium. I wish I could say I threw some annuities on top of that, but no, I didn't know that at the time. So
Yeah.
I was not with the person who was teaching that back in the day. So pretty consistent high premiums. I mean, I've won a bunch of carrier trips and plaques and different things like that. So that's been a blessing. Started an agency, man, maybe around 3 years ago,
Okay.
with Josh Jones, is
Okay.
probably who you referred to,
Yeah.
Entourage
Yep.
Financial Group. And that's a pretty cool story of itself. Speaking of faith in the industry, if you don't mind sharing that, one of the things for me is money is wonderful,
Yeah.
so I'm never going to pretend like
Yeah.
money can't be a great tool, or nice things aren't a blessing and fun to have.
Right.
But really, at the end of the day, for me, just being around a circle of people talking about how much money we can make, I get tired of that pretty fast.
Right.
Like that's not really like a motive that drives me for long consecutive stretches at a time. And so I remember I'd wanted a business partner for a long time in the industry. One of the biggest challenges for me was just working by myself. I think that's a struggle for independent agents. And
Sure.
but I hadn't. Yeah, I felt like it was few and far between where I ran across people that I really felt like I wanted to entrust kind of like my family's financial longevity
Sure.
with another person. That's one of the things um, that you find, I think, a lot of times. Because I had seen Josh around in different internet forums, and we ran an event together, and it was kind of one of those events where, you know, and people start talking about how much money they're making and different things like that, which is fine. But again, like I said, after we say that a few times, like I'm ready to talk about something else. So I remember just being in the corner eating appetizers or something. I saw Josh and I asked him, I think pre-verbatim, like, what's the end game for you? Like, you want to multiple six figures, or what you 7 figures, 8 figures, you know, what is the end game for you? And I knew my answer to that, you know. I'm again not downplaying being successful and having money,
No,
but just and I'll never forget his answer. His answer was, well, I just want to, when I'm making that type of money, I'm going to be able to support tons of full-time missionaries and give way more money to my church. And I was like, that's my dude right there, you know. And he has a completely different brain than me. We're completely opposite in a lot of ways. But when we started that about 3.5 years ago and started building the process of building an agency, I'm grateful for that. And you talk about seeing God's faithfulness, and it was kind of an answer to prayer, you know. Just I'd wanted that, and so it's been a cool journey to partner with somebody who kind of, you shore up each other's weaknesses, and so that was neat to see. So there are people out there in our industry that are doing some really awesome things. I want to encourage anyone listening that, you know, if that's your heart, you can really do some great things in this industry and make a lot of money, and at the same time be a great, rich blessing.
Sure.
Not only to people that we come into contact with, but with what you can do with your money. So that's been a neat thing to see, that 10 years ago when I got into this thing, I would have had no idea, you know?
Yeah. And so the entourage group that you have, how many agents do you guys have with you guys? Do you have agents across the country?
Yeah. So we have a field force of agents that are on the team. You know how, well, you guys do a lot of Medicare, so it might be different, but you contract lots of agents, and on a given week, only a certain amount of agents might be running business. So we do have agents all across the country. I think at one point over the year, we probably contracted, you know, a couple hundred agents, maybe a little more than that, you know, at any given time. And then now we're putting a lot of focus in this office here in Greenville.
Yeah. What about premium wise? Just for those that ask, like, what do you guys write in final expense, Medicare? Do you have like a combined total of premium that you guys write as a whole group?
Yeah. Not tons. We're actually not really have not really what's the right word here? Completely dove into the Medicare space at this point. So that's our next step. We want to do that and do that well. I know for me, I did it my last 1.5 years-ish in the field, and I kicked myself for it. I just didn't know what I didn't know, but I wrote probably 150 plus policies coming out of the field. And I was like, oh man, if only I knew, I could have started the Medicare minister group or something back there. And then
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you say premium wise, last year was COVID year. I have no idea. Everything it just seemed like a black hole. We had to, we weren't doing anything over the phone at that point. Now I had done phone sales in my past and won a carrier trip and stuff. And so we had to convert and different things like that. Now the year before, I think we did 3 million plus in final expense premium. So that's what we were tracking.
And you know, my background is I actually started with financial advising, went into final expense. Somebody told me Medicare was really hard, so I stayed out of it. And I kicked myself in the rear end for not getting involved in it. It's a lot of moving parts, and it took me a little bit to learn. But once I did, I really saw the value and really how you can utilize Medicare and really branch off, you know, and open up the door so much easier to do other, you know, products and add-ons. Let me ask you this real quickly. Why do you think, because I tell people the same thing. I'm not money motivated, but I do like money. Right? Like money, you know, money's neither good or bad. It's just a tool. It's a resource. It's neutral. But why do you think so many Christians, because as a church planner and pastor, Brandon, I fell into that myth for several years that I thought I had to be like poor, or I thought I couldn't have nice things. And I mean, there was nobody that told me I had to do that. but it's like I just fell into it. And I meet a lot of pastors and a lot of ministers and people in ministry that are almost like ashamed to have anything nice. Why do you think so many Christians, whether they're in a staff role or volunteer staff role or just Christians in general, why do you think they struggle so much with this concept of having money? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Wow, man, we're diving deep.
Yeah.
Man, that's probably been a question for thousands of years.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've completely found the perfect answer even for myself.
Mm.
So I really think, a lot of that's going to be found in just in a consistent relationship with the scripture,
Sure.
in the Bible, and your relationship with God, and the Bible talks about the Holy Spirit leading you in the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the only way we discover some of those things.
Sure.
So maybe one answer to that is, well, if you're not consistently in the Word, because that's how the Bible says God really speaks to us primarily, then you're answering that question just theoretically, right? Well, I heard these guys say that, and one other guy said this. So I think, first and foremost, and so then we watch these characters or these misfits in the Bible, and we kind of see the things Jesus did and they did, and what he said and modeled, and so I would say, a lot, Jesus says, where your treasure is, your heart is there too. And so when I think maybe for me, now I'm gonna say a lot of this speaking for me.
Sure. No,
When I get to a place to where my focus starts to be this thing, or this amount of money in my savings account, or this type of house or car, and I find my mind just continually going there and focusing there, and just dwelling there, then I know that's probably not the place that I need to be.
right.
Because then it gets to a point to where you think of Jesus and the rich young ruler, like if any time says, hey, God is like, hey, I open the door for you and your family to be a missionary to Guatemala.
Yeah.
And I say, but I got this house.
Yeah.
Then I think we could be, it could be touchy there, and I think God blesses us to be a blessing to others too. And so I think that's another piece of the conversation, where we want to bless our family and things like that. But if at the same time we're not continuing to grow the way we bless, our church and people and our family and our community, I think that could be another signpost to say, okay, maybe things are off or a little wonky. So I don't know. Those are maybe some of my thoughts. You can take them. I don't have my seminary degree, so I don't know how much they're worth.
Well, no. I think a lot of it is, I like to just keep it simple. And that is, I think Jesus talked about money so much. The Bible talks about money so much, because I believe there's a spirit on money in this world, right? That this spirit, this could seduce you to where instead of you running your money runs you. Or as Matthew chapter 6 says, instead of you running the treasure, the treasure running you. And I just think that it's such a big struggle that I see in Christian circles, that there's an abuse either this way, where it's like, oh, I don't deserve any money, money's bad, it's evil, all the rich people are nasty and going to hell and all this kind of thing. And then on the other side, you see it abused where it's this prosperity gospel, just sow your seed and God will meet your need. And, just, give 10 and God will give you 100, one of those, like God turns into an ATM machine. And I agree with you, man. I think you're spitting some fire here, that you really got to have that spirit and truth balance, right? And the Holy Spirit leads us into all truth. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And so to piggyback off of that, how do you define success? For Brandon, what is success? Because I know you're going to filter that through your faith, but what is success to you?
Man, that's a good question, because it's always a good question, but it's pertinent for me in this season, because we're trying to grow this office here in Greenville. And I think the first things you think about is like the numbers on the board. Who's going to be on the board, who's 1 through 10, and these different things. And and we officially kicked off at the end of January, so still really fresh.
Sure.
And it's been interesting so far, because this is really the first time in my career where I've worked every day in a face-to-face situation. Before that, uh, as a remote independent broker, we're all in our cars
Mm.
all across the country, and things are a little more hypothetical. Then you can get on a conference call and stuff like that, but this is much more in your face.
Sure.
And what I found was really at the beginning, very very early on, I think maybe one of the reasons I got into ministry was to just really find a way to help people. And
Sure.
so I found that clicking really fast when we started this. And so I started taking home just the weight of wanting an agent to succeed under those terms, like I just mentioned. There's in our industry, there's a certain weekly average you want to shoot for, 5,000 a week in final expense premium, are these
Sure.
typical things that we say,
Sure.
closing percentage and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
really early on, I was starting to wear that on my drive home and think, well, I got to get so and so here. Man, they're such a hard worker, and and um, I'm grateful. I feel like God just kind of just just poked me real quick one night and was like, "You are not responsible for anyone else's success in that manner." I was like, "Oh yes, you're right. Thank you for that."
Right.
And um, so it's kind of like all we can do is plant and sow and water, right? And God grows.
Right.
So I had to be reminded of that, and just in this. And so defining success for me is the numbers. They'll be there sometimes, and sometimes they won't. And some of
Sure.
that is just out of our control. But ultimately, so I think, though, again, if you show up and you have a system that has been proven to be successful, and you can scale it. I think you've said this already in the insurance industry. I think even in Medicare, it crosses over. You can have a bad day or week. You're usually not going to have a horrible month
Sure.
if you just do what you're supposed to do
Right.
40, 50 hours a week. And I think that's a lot of agents' problems that struggle. It's just because they don't put in the consistency there. But for success, I think in the office has changed a little bit for me, in realizing that I want to get really close to these guys and like do life together.
Sure.
But I don't determine how long that relationship is gonna be. And so I've been thinking recently, actually, whenever that relationship ends, and they and an agent departs from our relationship in the office together, it's got to be more than just, hey, they were an awesome final expense agent, or
Right.
they won a carrier trip. And
Sure.
so success has become much more than that. Like in the mornings, I'm trying to be consistent about I was just doing a quick prayer together. And not everybody in the office is I would say they have like a what's the right word? Just like a faith in the Lord,
Sure.
or consistent
Sure.
relationship with God. We're in the Bible Belt, so it's like everybody would say, "Hey, I'm a Christian" or whatever. So,
Right.
you guys are in the Bible Belt, I think too.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's been one thing. Success in that way would be like, hey, um, you don't have to do anything, but let's just pray together. And if you have something we can pray about, that's success, because people would see that and take that home. Or when our relationship is done, success is, do you feel like because of our time together, you're a better husband, a better wife, a better parent?
Mm.
Um, has our time spent together changed you to be a better overall person? Sure, you might have made a lot of money, and that's awesome,
Yeah.
but if we can connect 10 years down the road,
Yeah.
after we've stopped working together, and you're like, hey, remember this one thing we did together, this book we went through together and stuff? Holy crap, that
Yeah.
changed
Yeah.
my relationship with my kids. That would blow my mind, as far as like, who cares how much money is in my bank account at that point? I don't I'm old now. So I think those are a lot of indicators of success that I'm looking for at this stage of the game, really.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, man. I think you're spitting some fire there too, because I'm really big on leaving a legacy and making an impact. And that's what we've done for 20 years in our ministry, whether it's a youth pastor, worship leader, church planner, pastor, in business. And because I believe in what I do is a ministry. A lot of people separate ministry from their work. But one of the reasons I like bringing Medicare and minister together, that's the persona here, is because I can't tell you how many people, I'm in my office here in Tupelo, Mississippi. I've prayed for people that have, had stage 4 cancer. I prayed for people in my office that were going through some things. On the phone, I had a lady whose husband traded her in for a younger model, her words, and she was crying. And even though I was helping her with their insurance needs, it was like, to me, although I was going to get paid to help her, to me, it was more important that I leave an impact on her life and let her know that someone really, really cared. And you know what I mean? That I could put the commission aside and that I could just talk to her, because I truly believe when you focus that way, leaving an impact, the money just comes, man. When you know this, I'm preaching to the choir here. You're a seasoned guy. The more value you're at, if more new agents could get that commission breath out of the way and just focus on adding value and making an impact, that the money just comes, man. The harvest just comes. Have you seen that in your own life as well?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. I think, the commission breath can come in seasons and waves, I think. The cool thing about Medicare, though, is once you build up a little bit of renewal, I think that helps keep away the commission breath quite as much. But there have been times, throughout every year. I don't think you ever perfect it, and I think it's good, just God reminders of like you. Oh man, I'm 0 for 3, I'm 0 for 4, I'm 0 for 11. And then you finally just, hopefully you have someone in your life that just kind of can prick you a little bit and be like, hey, focus on the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And then everything else, I think that's a Zig Ziglar thing. Like if you take care of what someone else needs, whatever you need is you don't have to worry about that. He stole that. That sounds like a God principle that he stole, but it does ring true. I found myself, when I would get in a sales funk, okay, I need to stop thinking about this. I need to perfect this one objection, or this one random thing, and just be a real person again and focus on how I can help the next person in front of me. Somebody said recently that I was talking to, her name's Helena, and her goal is every day when she's doing presentations and taking, transfer calls, is if she can walk away or, unplug each day, but to have really blessed just one person, and whatever that is. And you kind of mentioned, like, if it's a person that is dealing with serious health conditions, how can I listen well and speak well to that condition? Hey, I may make the sale, I may not, but at the end of the day, if I can just connect one time each day that I'm doing this, man, a lot of stuff you're going to have to worry less and less about. And I think your prospects, I know your prospects can feel that.
Sure.
And final expense, we kind of make the joke, we're working with the poor people or whatever. It's that thing. And it's true, they're lower income, and I've been doing this a long time. And so you go to some pretty hard up places. But I was saying the people are not stupid, so they can sense the aura that you're putting out there. And so if they sense that you're genuinely there to be with them and help better their situation and not just another number to check off, it's amazing how quickly they'll just almost melt like butter and just be an open person with you. And it totally flips the script when you can start interacting with people in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. When you actually care, John Maxwell said it this way, is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's one of the things I teach here, is that if your authenticity and your passion or compassion for people will definitely, carry over in your presentations. Real quickly, you were talking about someone to kind of prick you and push you and hold you accountable. Who has that been for you in your life? Is there one person that you would say because of this person. They were a mentor and really just kind of helped me get to where I'm at today.
Man, the past few years, it would be my business partner, probably Josh. We share like, it's a cool space when you're doing business or in business together with another brother in the Lord, because we both know we're so far from perfect.
Sure. Yeah.
But and so that's a good place to be able to still be able to trust each other in that. So I think that's been a huge blessing. But that's a shortcoming in my life. The answer to that question, I'm an only child, and so I've become accustomed to just doing life on my own.
Sure.
And so I'm pretty I'm not as proactive as I would like to be, I think, and continually to invite those relationships in, probably specifically probably in business, in church. That's pretty easy, if you're in a men's small group and you're going through things together, like we just went through a book, talking about the holiness of God, and that
Sure.
comes pretty easily,
Yeah.
so those types of things, most recently, actually, though, we've done some coaching with Helena Davis, and she's just another rock star in the industry, and reached out to her, and I think she's done the whole leadership thing through John Maxwell, and
Sure.
it was just a good reminder as an answer to that question, like when you find someone out there that you feel like you maybe click with and they're doing good things, just reach out to them and say,
Yeah.
hey, can we get you on a conference call? And
Sure.
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at maybe what can come out of that. I know for me, pride just gets in the way sometimes. You look around at other guys or ladies or whatever in the industry, and it's like some more of the thoughts of, well, I can do that, or these different stupid, silly, prideful things that we think of. And if sometimes I think we would just take our pride down and reach out and be like, hey, you seem to be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Can I buy you a cup of coffee and just ask you a couple of questions? Because
Sure.
I have so much to learn.
Yeah.
I think it would be surprised at how much we would gain from that, for sure.
Well, dude, that's spitting some fire there too, because I love what you said. It's intentionality. And let me just give you the story. I'm 46, will be 47 in a few months. Justin Brock is about 13 years younger than me, but I humbled myself to come learn underneath him because he was doing bigger things in his space than I was doing in my space. And man, it has been a blessing. It's been a fun ride. And I tell people all the time, find someone that can teach you and mentor you that's already in the place that you want to go to, right? And learn that. And it takes humility and it takes intentionality, especially for a D personality guy like me, because I'm a very dominant personality. But I've learned in my life, by the grace of God, to humble myself in different areas and realize, hey, Rob, you have blind spots. You got to have men and women in your life that can point out these blind spots and help you grow. So I definitely love what you said there. Look at two more things real quickly. And you've been so generous with your time, and man, just dropping some fire today. I asked this to everyone that I interview. If there was one word that you could use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
Oh man, I should have listened to more of your talks, man. I would have had the answer. Yeah. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. If there was one word that you could use to describe yourself, what would that one word be? Just one word, whatever that gut reaction is, comes to mind.
It would be dependable.
Dependable. Okay.
Yeah.
So let part B to the question. How has being dependable helped you get to the level of success that you're at today?
So for me, are you familiar with the Enneagram? We can break off here. Do you know about the Enneagram?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So for the listeners or the watchers, the Enneagram is, primarily kind of a really popular personality. What would you say? Like, what are the names? DISC.
Yeah.
Is another one that people do.
We do a lot of DISC here in our agency, right?
Yeah. So it'd be similar. And so I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, and ones are labeled a lot for being perfectionist, being analytical, we're the ones that are super hard probably to get excited.
Sure.
So I think of a Justin Brock and stuff like that. Even you
Yeah.
sitting in front of me, you put on awesome shows and you get everybody excited. The ones are in the back thinking like, how can we make this perfect?
Yeah.
Those types of
Right.
things.
Right.
But also, what made me think of Dependable is if I'm functioning well, and I'm in a good space, which is not always 100% of the time, unfortunately. Perfectionists can become dependable in that if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it right, we're going to do it on time, and you're going to be able to always trust that that comes through.
Sure.
And so for me, I think that's been a big asset and really a gift from God, I think, in my
Yeah.
DNA to take something and just use it and do it the right way. I don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I'm going to show up and do it at a high level, pretty consistently, not perfectly. That's why I got to
Sure.
fight.
Yeah.
Not perfectly. I want to do it perfectly. I just
Yeah.
can't beat myself up for it. But and dependable that, like, hey, I'm going to always present this to you and you can count on that. And I think
Sure.
doing that consistently over time,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just going to get results. It might not be the number one all the time, but I mean, it's going to check in there pretty well most times.
Well, it's interesting you say that because us D personalities over here, and I don't know what I'm on the Enneagram. I haven't taken that yet, but I've been, one of my friends told me I need to, but us D personalities, we just take massive imperfect action, right? And we worry about all the details later. But the good news,
exactly.
Real leaders learn how to surround themselves with the ones, right, that can help them fill in those gaps and be dependable. And dependability is such a big thing in our culture today because we're anemic in the workforce and even in the agency space. And this, I mean, agents are a dime a dozen. There's a constant turnover sometimes, and the attrition rate is ridiculous, or it can be. So I definitely love what you were saying there. Let me ask you this, kind of as a part B to that. Was that something that was, obviously you were given that as a God-given gift, but was that something you saw modeled in your life or in earlier career? Or what do you think allowed you to be this? Was it modeled by your parents, a coach, another mentor of some sort?
Man, I don't know if I've ever been asked that before. I think a piece of it is just kind of going back to DNA and personality, the way I think God put me together. It's so important for me when I say I'm going to do something, maybe to an unhealthy level sometimes,
Sure.
to just do it.
Yeah.
Like if I tell you I'm going to, like, this is what I'm going to get done for you,
Right.
like it's gonna take like something like an emergency for that not to have been done.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm seeing that modeled. Two names that stick out to me. I've already said one, John Piper. He's a pastor. I don't know if you know who he is, but
I love John Piper. Yeah.
John Piper, I think of dependability in that he's
Yeah.
true in season and out of season.
Sure.
I know when I go looking for John Piper, what
Yeah.
I'm gonna get. There's
Right.
there's no duplicity there.
Right.
And so I honor that, and I'm envious of that in a way that's where I feel like I'm so far from that, but I don't want to have a life of duplicity. I think of Eugene Peterson, who's another pastor. When I go to Eugene Peterson, I mean, he's recently passed away, but his stuff, like, I know what I'm gonna get.
Right.
There, and it's dependable,
Yeah.
and it's just a beautiful thing that feeds my spirit.
Yeah,
And
man.
so so I think those types of people stand out to me as far as like
Yeah.
it's just a sweet place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's funny. Some of the audience won't get this when this episode drops, but being a John Piper guy, I was really, earlier on when you said that, I was expecting to drop the word sovereignty and grace and all that kind of stuff.
I was holding back. Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
all
yeah,
there.
I'm
Yeah.
a big Piper, Keller, Platt, Chandler, all
Yeah.
those guys. And so I listen to a lot
Yeah.
of those guys as well. So no, I totally get it. So real quickly, as we wrap up here, a lot of different people will be watching this episode in different spaces, men and women. And so I really wanted to design a show or a podcast that wasn't just geared towards the insurance. I know we're both in the insurance space, but I've interviewed some home-based business. I got some other leaders in other spaces coming up. if there was some words of wisdom and advice for maybe that person that was going to step out and chase their dreams, or say live on purpose, maybe that new agent, since you're in the insurance space, but also just some universal advice, what would you give that person that is wanting to go after their dreams but is just fearful? Is there some words that you would go back and tell Brandon years ago, the Brandon now? Is there some words that you would go back and preach to that Brandon?
Yeah, I think you know, for me, you said you're a D, so I'm pretty hesitant to take risks.
Sure.
And unless I know, unless I've completely
Right.
dissected every angle of the situation to know that when I step into this, it's going to be done perfectly.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I can easily think of things. You know, I don't want to get off track here, but I would have probably done Medicare sooner.
Sure.
You know, but you know, it was an unknown and a risk, and I didn't know that I could do it perfectly.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I didn't have a Rob Sevilla right next to me that I could depend on. So if
Right.
I couldn't figure it out, if I couldn't figure it out perfectly, I just didn't do it.
Right.
Or different things like that. Later in my career, another one was like annuities or different things
Sure.
that you would run across. And so for me, I think that in a way, you know, stunted some growth possibilities because of my fear of maybe the unknown
Mm,
or learning something new.
yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely go back, and this may be another theme that towards the end of this conversation, and maybe drop some pride
Yeah.
and pick up some humility and
Yeah.
say, gee,
Oh man.
I don't know how to do that, but you're killing it. It appears to me.
Sure.
Would you be willing to have a conversation? Because I don't know what the heck I'm doing,
Sure.
but you sure seem like you do. And
Yeah.
so for someone that's watching, you know, whatever space you're in, I would say that that piece too is how I got some early on success and final expenses. That's what I did. You know, there was a top 5 list email that came out every week. These are the ones on the leaderboard, and I had conversations with them. Please tell me what you do. Guess what I did? I did what they did. You know,
Bro.
and just connecting and making relationships.
Yeah.
Don't try to do it on your own. And I think maybe lastly, one thing I'm learning as I age is most things in life, you know, with business and these types of things, typically, I know there's always exceptions. They're not life or death decisions. I think we sometimes we can make such a big deal about
Right.
like this one huge decision, and if I make this decision, I can never change it, or I can never amend it, or you know, do different things with it and mold it. Like it's just this one decision, yes or no, black or white. And I think one thing that I've learned, I'm starting to learn or trying to get better at learning is like most decisions aren't life or death decisions.
Right.
So if you're feeling it and if you're feeling like in your gut, like you have a dream to do something,
Sure.
maybe God put it there. So
Sure.
get connected with another God person maybe, or get in
Right.
your word. Make sure you're showing up at church.
Yeah.
Bounce that off other wise people. And guess what? Go for it.
Yeah.
Chances are it might not work out.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? Put everything you got into it. Put your hater blockers on. Dust your shoulders off. When you fall down and pick yourself back up, go back to people that can give you encouragement and keep
That's it.
busting it.
That's
You know,
it.
that's what we need more of in our society. And those are the people that you really want to cheer on.
Yeah.
And that's advice to
Yeah.
myself. I wish I was that person more.
Yeah. That was like lightning round spitting fire, bro. That was some really good stuff. Well, Brandon, thank you once again, man. You've been so gracious with your time. I just pray blessing,
Sure.
man, over your agency, that God would give you the wisdom and the know-how, and that He'd put the right people in your life at the right time, and the right agents would join. And I just really believe that, man. I just believe in praying blessings over one another and declaring things over one another. And so thank you for your time today. And as we wrap up, I pray, guys, that this has just put fresh wind in your sails. I pray that it encourages you to take one more step, to not give up on your dreams, because I truly believe this. I truly believe that all of you deserve to win, but it's how bad do you want it? right? And once again, I believe the God of the universe has created you on purpose to live on purpose. As always, please subscribe down below, comment, share this with someone who you think needs to hear this today. Make sure you click on the little bell down there to notify you when these type of interviews and other content drops. And thank you for joining us today. God bless all of you guys, and go make it an awesome day. We'll see you guys soon.